Hey y'all, how's it going? Today I wanted to share with you some fuel economy information on my 2003 Dodge Ram 2500 Cummins diesel. And this morning I was working on my spreadsheets. I've got over 120,000 miles worth of miles per gallon tracking. And I've had 3 different tire sizes. I've been through summers, winters, highway, not so much city, but a little bit. And I've compiled a lot of information here, so I just wanted to share it with you. So this is what I decided to do. Alright, so I broke this down. Firstly, I eliminated the outliers. I did all this in Excel. I eliminated the outliers, which would be any miles that had any tanks that had trailers, any tanks that was right after a time when I forgot to write down, my fuel economy data. So I had to delete, every time I forgot a tank, I had to delete the next fill up from the list. But I started with 273 fill ups, and overall, my miles are about 96% highway. It's actually a little over 96. So the first thing I was interested in was tire size and how tire size affected fuel economy. So these miles are mostly unloaded, but there's payload miles in there too. So anything that's in the bed for the ride, sometimes heavy things would be included in here. But I find that that's not nearly as dramatic of a MPG difference as trailers. So I left those tanks in there, and I actually have no clue which tanks had payload or not. So that's part of the reason why I left them in there. So stock tire size was 265/70. I had 10 fill-ups that I tracked in the very early days that I started tracking. I had these stock tires on, and we averaged 18.41 miles a gallon. So that's pretty good. But actually what's most surprising is when we went to a bigger size here, these 285/75s are about 34 inches high, about 11.5 inches wide. So not much wider than the stock, but 2 inches taller. And I filled up 140 times with these tires on, and we averaged 19 miles a gallon. So yeah, you consider we're 96% highway, but to get 19 MPG was a big deal. Now these were mud tires too. Those were Toyo MTs, so they're pretty heavy, and they're mud tires. We're coming from an all-terrain here, so this was a surprising change. So I decided, well, why not go to 35s? Because if the truck shrugged off those, maybe it would shrug these off too. Now I think we got past that point. So 35 by 12.5, each of those tires it's like 11 pounds heavier than the old size, which is a significant move. We filled up 112 times with them so far, and we're averaging 17.96, which is actually better than I thought we would average. So for tire size, yeah, you can see the decline there. I really think that if I was driving the truck a little bit better, that we could have had about 19 on the stock tires, but the sample size is a little bit small, I would say, to really know what the actual fuel economy was on those. So for fun, I decided to break this down a little bit more. So how about summer versus winter fuel economy? Let's take a winter that I spent in Pennsylvania, and 2 different tire sizes because I spent 2 winters there. And what did we get? So 34s gave us 18.17 miles a gallon. That's not a terrible number. That's actually quite a good number for winter time. How about the 35s? That one was not so impressive. 16.74. I would say, yeah, I mean, they were new tires at the time, so they were definitely not broke in, versus where these tires were definitely broke in. Because I find tires will improve fuel economy after you put 20, 30,000 miles on them versus when you first get them. So there may be some effect there with the 35s being so low. But let's take a look. How about Mississippi summer? So we're going from cold to very hot. Spent many summers here with all these different tire sizes, and the 34s were a great performer. 19.37 average. It's a very strong number. I would definitely take that number again down here. 35s, 18.55. Better than I thought. That is better than I thought would be. But we did a lot better on 35 MPG, 35 tires MPG last summer versus how I was doing in the spring and last winter. So there was an upward trend with these. Just to kind of further isolate it, I compare last winter to last summer. So January 2017, just 1 month, coldest month of the year. It was my last month in Pennsylvania. And we had the 35-inch tires on, and we got 16.68 average fuel economy, which is just slightly below the overall average for that winter with those tires. Then Mississippi last July, in the heat, 18.71. That's very good for 35s in my book. Now, granted, we are pushing 100% highway miles there, but that's a good number for a 35-inch tire. Now, here's something new. Brands. A lot of people say this, whatever brand, is the same diesel. Additives may vary. I agree with them for the most part that fuel economy will probably be close to the same between brands. But I've started keeping track of brands actually it was after I moved back down here. That was February of 2017. And so I've got a few brands here. I only calculated averages for brands that I had at least 5 fill-ups on. And I don't have very many here, and I think the sample size needs to get bigger on this, but here we got Exxon, 32 fill-ups, 18.05 average. Okay. Shell, 34 fill-ups, 18.32 average. That was the best, but still, I think we need more samples. Chevron, I really want to get more Chevron samples in here. 18.14 after 5 fill-ups. And then Royal Farms, which is actually, you find them up in Maryland and stuff. That's what I fill up on if I ever do go up north to that area. And I've got 5 fill-ups on Royal Farms at 17.7. Of course, I happen to be up there mostly during the winter time, usually. At least that's the last 2 times I've been up there has been in the winter. So, Royal Farms, they're mostly on winter blend, 17.7. So, this is my best effort at city MPG. So, I'm including in this average tanks where I said that I had at least 20% more or more city. I have very few tanks. Originally, you see, I scribbled out 25 there because I couldn't find enough tanks where I had 25 or more. So I made it 20. And so we had 6 tanks of 20% or more city, and we averaged 17.2 miles a gallon in that time. Yeah, my estimate for pure city MPG would be about 14. This truck's pretty impressive, actually, on city MPG. And 100% highway tanks. I had a bunch of those, dozens of them, and where I said, yes, I was 100% on highway. We averaged 18.79 all time. So that was with all tire sizes averaged out, which is not terribly high. In fact, some of the tanks where I marked 5% city or 10% city were actually, a bit better than that. So that one, I'm not sure. That one confuses me a bit. Some other fun facts. Best miles a gallon I ever had was 21.0, October 2015. I was in Pennsylvania at the time, and I was doing a lot of interstate driving. I was driving on the highway every day, 65 miles one way, 65 miles home, because I was working. And it was all highway the whole way. And that's how that 21 MPG happened. It was with the 34 tires. Most miles in one tank. September 2015, kind of the same scenario. You got 634 miles, and for your info, that tank got 19.6 MPG. It took well over 30 gallons. So I was definitely probably running with the low fuel light on for a little bit there, is my guess. So that's the data that I figured out. If you have any questions, let me know. But I thought it'd be cool to put that together for y'all, and you know, I always like to put it together every now and then. I did it about maybe 7 or 8 months ago, and you know, now I got more data for the brands, more data for the 35 tires.